Hello and welcome to Miss Coyle, who is running for District 207 School Board in the April 6, 2021 consolidated election. Thank you for participating in this candidate interview. I will be asking a variety of questions which were developed in a collaboration between the Maine West Westerner student newspaper and Pi Sigma Pi Social Science Honor Society. You will have 2 minutes to share your answer to each one. When the 2 minutes have passed, I ask that you only take a few seconds to finish your thoughts so that we can move to the next question. Let's start now with question 1. We would like to know, if you had 2 minutes to address the people of Des Plaines, what would you say?
Sure. Hey, so first of all, thank you, Hannah, and thank you everyone for allowing me as well as the other candidates to talk to you guys today and talk to the citizens of Des Plaines. First thing I want to say is I hope all the people of Des Plaines have remained healthy and emotionally healthy and physically healthy throughout this year that we've had with dealing with the COVID pandemic. And one thing I'd like to say is that I, as a current board member and hopefully as a future board member, am totally committed to the people of Des Plaines. Des Plaines is such a amazingly, wonderfully diverse community, and Maine West also reflects that awesome diversity. And it is my goal to make sure that Maine West is a safe haven during this time and at all times for all students, regardless of anyone's background, anyone's social background, economic background, ethnic background, whatever it is, everyone is welcome at Maine West. That is my goal, to make sure that that school is a safe haven during this time and all times, and that each child, each student is allowed the same access to excellent teachers, excellent facilities, excellent programs, and all access to all opportunities so that you students can go on and just conquer the world. I also want the citizens of Des Plaines to know that I am very conscious of spending tax dollars wisely. And I'm a steward of the tax money. Everyone works so hard for their money. And I scrutinize, as chair of the finance committee, I scrutinize every dollar that is spent, again, to make sure that the best possible teachers are brought in and remain, and the facilities are the greatest for our students so that they can succeed. And just finally, if you'd all like to know a little more about my background and my commitment to making our schools great, actually better than they are, and continue, and they are great schools, quite frankly, especially Maine West. Please go to my website. It's votecoyle.com, votecoyle.com. And I actually have a Facebook page, believe it or not. It is Linda Coyle for Maine Township D207 board. So thank you.
Thank you for your reply. We will now turn to our second question. Again, you'll have 2 minutes to provide your answer. Our second question is, some students say that between the pandemic and our past experiences with school shooter drills, school is kind of a scary place. What concrete things can be done to make school feel both safe and welcoming?
Okay, gosh. So again, it's been scary this past year, and there have been just so many other scary things going on in the world, as you said, just threats of school shooting and just violence and everything. And really, again, it is my goal to make sure that Maine West and all three of our schools are that wonderfully safe environment for students to go to. And I have been a huge advocate of keeping school open, even all the way back when the pandemic started. And what I say by open is not necessarily live school, because everyone has different backgrounds. And there are some students who, for whatever reason, cannot come back because of the pandemic. They've got issues where they can't come back live. So, but school needs to remain open so that kids have access to not only excellent teachers and education, but support, whether it's emotional support, whether it's I know that in the district there are families that struggle with providing food on the table. And my attitude is school needs to be a place, public school needs to be a place that not only provides an education, but also nurtures the student in all ways. And that is the goal, so that school remains open. If you need a lunch, if you need a breakfast, you should be able to go to school. If you need to talk to a counselor about something, school is there. Also, what has been occurring in District 207, which I think is really terrific, is that the staff, the actually administrative staff, they've kind of pivoted towards making sure the assistant principals are equipped to deal with and notice kids who are going through some emotional issues. That is a huge, right now, the mental health stress on all of the kids going through this pandemic and trying to balance going to school, be it remote or be it live, and being isolated also needs to, it is so important. And again, I'm a big believer that the schools need to provide that type of support as well as straight up a good education.
Thank you for your answer. Please take the next 2 minutes to respond to our third question. For the third question, we'd like you to tell voters what can be done to promote equity in schools, especially with regards to race, sexual identity, and gender identity.
Sure, that is also a huge deal with me, and I think it starts with the board, where the board needs to set the tone that there is a commitment throughout the whole district of equity and of non-discrimination, and that all students should be allowed equal access to all opportunities, and that any sort of discrimination is not tolerated at all. I know within the schools there are groups. They're the SOAR group in each building, Students Organized Against Racism, which I think is super important. I think it's got to go then from the board, though, down to the administration and down to the teachers. And what I have seen at our schools is that, again, racism is not tolerated, and that any even blink of the eye in that direction, it is addressed, and again, it's just not tolerated. But I think that it's very important for there to be a transparent message across students, across teachers, across administration, and all the way up to the board. That it is a commitment by this district that every student, regardless of background, will be provided with the best possible services and support.
Thank you for your answer. I would like for you now to consider our fourth question. The fourth question is, some classes and areas of the building feel very crowded even during a normal year. For the safety of all students now and in the future, what long-term adjustments to the classrooms, building spaces, or class enrollment numbers could help lessen the risks to everyone's health and safety?
So there's a couple of things that are going on in the district right now as we speak that address those concerns, and I would argue that these initiatives need to be continued. The first one is the awesome construction that is being done. In particular, since I'm speaking to the people of Des Plaines, the construction at Maine West is really going to help with flow of the students, because Maine West, I mean, you guys go to school there. There are a lot of bottlenecks in that school that make it very uncomfortable and actually very difficult during times like these, which we've never experienced, but now we do, where we have to social distance. So I think the construction is going to provide students with bigger spaces, more collaborative spaces, but spaces that are more modern and up to date, where students won't be confined to smaller spaces. Also, I'm just so excited for y'all about the field house. It's about time. Maine West got that, and I think that's going to really enhance the student experience there. PE classes will be able to be funneled off into that. Extracurriculars, sports, maybe even some classes. I mean, if we end up doing another pandemic, hopefully not, or whatever it is, where we have to social distance, that's a beautiful space that can be utilized to allow kids to still be able to come into school and participate in things while doing it safely. And then I want to just talk a little bit about what the pandemic has done regarding switching over to virtual school or remote school. And again, I've been a huge proponent about get the kids back to school. And again, that means live and that means remotely, but remotely should be done. Kids should be allowed to have the same opportunities if they choose to go to school remote. I know at Maine West, a large percentage of the students, I think it's greater than 50%, as a matter of fact, I know it is, are not coming back live. And that's for a variety of reasons. And what we, as a district and as a board member, must do is respect that and continue to provide ways that these students who aren't there can participate and are given the opportunity to get the same type of education as someone who actually comes into class. What is going to happen, I think, in the future, and what I would push for, is that this flexibility of taking classes remote remains down the road, and maybe even some classes will be offered only remote in the future, because we are becoming more nimble and flexible, and every day we're learning more and more about technologies. And I have to say, the teachers throughout this in D207 were just amazing. They flipped on a dime, and they have been so incredibly innovative and have been trying to figure out ways to give students this great educational experience while doing it remotely. So that is only going to grow and continue in the future.
Okay, thank you for your explanation. For our fifth question, we'd like to know, students feel pressure to take AP classes, even as freshmen coming into the system when they take AP World History. It's usually harder to drop AP classes from your schedule than regular classes, which sometimes makes students feel stuck. What are your thoughts about these issues?
So I have thought a lot about that AP pressure. I've got two kids, and one of them, my daughter, she felt that huge pressure of taking a ton of AP classes, and there was a point where she felt overwhelmed. So as a parent, I actually experienced that. And that made me nervous, and her pressure was put on by herself. So I could see students feeling that pressure that they've got to take these AP classes, or they're maybe not going to go to college, they're not up to snuff, they're not going to succeed. And that's not true. And what I do see with the district, and I am pushing for this as well, as switching away from this hard push for AP classes, and maybe looking at and putting more dual credit classes in the curriculum, where they may not be like that super high level calculus or a super high level science, but a more practical class that you maybe, psychology is already one, they do AP Psych, but a class that you actually would, you're taking in a high school class, but you actually get automatic credit at college for. I do think it's important, though, to still have AP classes because, and also, I think most importantly, to offer these AP classes to some students who may not have generally thought that maybe they could do it or that it was a consideration for them. We've got a lot of students in our district and at Maine West that are first generation students in the United States, and a lot of students where their parents didn't necessarily go to college. So it's a whole other world for them to even consider going to college. And most of them do, which is terrific. But there's got to be that balance between taking some AP classes, but also feeling, making sure the student understands that that doesn't mean you're not a success, that you still take classes. It doesn't have to be an AP class in order to get credit for it, in order to get into a great college.
Thank you for your answer. Let's shift now to our sixth question. For our sixth question, please explain what would you take from the remote learning environment and integrate into the typical learning experience?
So the biggest thing I think that I have gleaned from this remote learning, and again, I have the perspective of a parent with a student in Maine South, or not Maine South, in District 207, and as a board member, is the ability to remain flexible. We've seen way back last March where we all had to just hunker down and schools had to go remote almost instantly. And that was tough. It was a tough learning curve. And again, I think the teachers did an amazing job of trying to figure things out. But we have evolved more and more. And now I think it is an excellent experience. The teachers are really good at doing virtual learning. I think the students have acclimated that way. And I totally can see, I think this is super important to remain that way, to remain nimble. And in case we have to go fully remote again in the future, but also I think there's got to have to be an eye towards having classes, having some classes have an option of always being remote. Because again, I think it would really help some students. I know that there are some students in the district, especially when you get up to junior or senior year, who may be working or doing an internship, and it just fits much better in their schedule if they can do their internship, and then maybe they don't have to rush over to Maine West to go to school, that they can do a remote class from home and get just as much out of it. So I think this time period has accelerated how we do technology, and it's for the better. We just have to keep going in that direction. I think it's a huge benefit for the kids. I think that's one thing that is going to be remarkable about this pandemic, and that is how you students are going to be just so good at being able to switch on a dime, and technology, it already was second nature for you. It's you guys are amazing, and it's just going to become even more a part of this world and a part of how you guys succeed.
Thank you for your reply. For our seventh question, we would like to know, how will you include student perspectives when making decisions about academics, extracurriculars, and other aspects of daily life at school? Please share your thoughts on that.
At each school, the leadership teams need to be engaged with the students. And there has been a change in the past year or so, where the deans, the dean, that's the title of that position, has been changed to an assistant principal, with the caveat that person must have a good background in emotional support and looking at social and emotional issues that kids may be going through. And along with that is the fact that the staff needs to listen to the students, not only for their social and emotional needs, but also just their everyday needs. What's going on in the school, what works and what doesn't work. I do know that Maine West has I don't know exactly what it's called. It might be Principals Advisory, or it's a group where students, a group of students meet with the principal, and I believe that that should be used for the students to talk about what's going on in the school, what's working, what's not working, and even perhaps a representative from the class comes to board meetings every now and then, or maybe every board meeting, or submits some of their issues to their principals so that the principals can then convey that to the board. Because I would love to, we get a lot of input from the teachers, but I think input from the students would be incredibly welcome. And it doesn't have to be direct, but I think that would give us a really nice perspective on what's actually going on. Because you guys, you students, are the ones that are there when school's in session for 6 hours. They're live, but you're also, even virtually, you know what works, what makes you bored, what makes you turn off your camera, whatever. Teachers only know the classrooms that they teach. They don't walk through the school or walk through the day virtually for 6 or 7 or 8 hours and then have to do an extracurricular, or choose to, or do a sport or whatever it is afterwards. So I'm going to encourage, I think I'm going to put that down as one of my goals if I'm elected, that we figure out how we can have student representation all the way up to the board level.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts. Let's move to our next question. As always, you'll have 2 minutes to share your answer. For our 8th question, how will you hear from teachers and staff about what works best to make their classes successful?
One thing that is a huge thing in District 207 that I think is so positive is the coaching program. And that is a program that is run by the teachers, and it gives the teachers a chance to be innovative and to stay modern and up to date, and make sure that they're aware of the best and the most up-to-date teaching methods. So I'm so impressed with that coaching program. I'm a big proponent of it. I also believe that there needs to be good discussions between the principals and the teachers about issues similar to what I was just talking about with the students, what works and what doesn't work. And I know our principals are just so wonderfully invested in the students and their staff that I would hope that they already have this wonderful conversation going. Again, it would not be a bad idea to hear from the teachers. And I'm not talking about the teachers union. The teachers union is super important, but it's a separate aspect of things. It would be great for the board to get feedback from the teachers on just the day-to-day, just the day-to-day, things that are going on in the schools.
Thank you for your explanation. For our 9th question, we'd like to know, currently, many students feel it is more important to keep people safe and healthy, even if that means not everyone can be in person all the time. With colds and flu getting passed around and causing many absences even in a normal year, what have you learned from this year that could make our school safer and healthier?
So I think what we need to do is realize that we need to provide the students with the ability to be able to plug into classes regardless of the circumstances. Unfortunately, there may not be any snow days from now on because you guys will always be able to get to school via your computers, but it's a way for the students to always be connected regardless of circumstances. I think it's important to grow the virtual learning opportunities and to make sure, this is a big deal, to make sure that every single student has the ability and the capability to do that. I know the district, when we all went remote, something we talked about at the board meetings was to ensure that every student had access to internet, had a Chromebook or a computer that they could use, and that their Wi-Fi capabilities were up to snuff. And because, again, when you talk about Des Plaines and the students of Maine West, it's such a diverse community, and we cannot let, just because we're moving forward on technology, we can't allow any student, any family to fall through the cracks and not have access to the same things that all students should have access to. So I think moving forward, just have to keep providing for all students technology-wise, and expand our virtual programs. I mean, in the future, we've been talking about at the board meetings, potentially offering gym PE as a permanent alternative class. Not for everyone, because there's going to be kids who want to go to PE, and we should allow those students to do that. But there are students, again, who have to work or want to do an internship, or who want to take another class, whatever it is. Having PE virtually is just a fantastic option. And something that's going to happen, I don't know if it's already happened, but we did vote on it at the board meeting, where each student at Maine West is going to get a monitor, health monitor, so that they can do gym virtually. So they'll be able to, I think, sync it up to their computer and then download it to their PE instructor. Each kid is going to get one of those, and it's going to be theirs. And it will, it's not this year. If they haven't gotten one already this year, it's going to start in the fall. And again, that will enable, that's just one class, one example that could remain as a virtual option.
Thank you for your answer. I would like for you now to consider our 10th question. The 10th question is, in light of the mental health issues many students have faced in a more intensified way because of the pandemic, how will you adjust the schedule or create opportunities for students to help/have space to deal with those issues? What kinds of actions will you take to prioritize student mental health during the school year? Even in a non-pandemic year, this is a concern for many students.
Yeah, it's a huge concern. And just what I talked about earlier, my view is that public schools generally, and I'm focused, of course, on our district, and today we're talking mostly about Maine West, should be a safe haven, and students should be given access to great learning tools, but also their social and emotional needs and mental health needs need to be met and need to be addressed. Part of that, and I've been really proud to be a board member for the past 4 years, where the district has, again, decided to reimagine the role of the dean, again, now called an assistant principal, where those individuals that are filling that role have that background in mental health and in social emotional issues, where they can address those issues with the students. It's important for each staff member at each school and each teacher just to be aware now, but even when there's not a pandemic, that these students are just, I mean, being a teen is tough, and let alone during a pandemic, but it's important for the schools to be equipped to identify those issues and to address those issues so that each student gets help if that is needed, so that again they feel safe. That's the whole purpose of school, is to feel safe and to be nurtured, to be given a great education, but also to at times be fed. Because we have a lot of families that are in need, and to be given this social and emotional help.
Thank you for your explanation. Let's shift now to our 11th question. Please explain, what are your biggest priorities with regards to spending the school district's budget?
So I have held the position of finance committee chair for the district for the past 2 years. And I've got to say, I'm really proud of the fact that the district is financially sound. And again, as I said earlier, I am extremely conscious of spending the taxpayers' money, because each and every family, there are so many families that are struggling out there, and that money that we get, those tax dollars, those property tax dollars, need to be spent very wisely. That said, the focus needs to be on great staff. 80% of our budget goes towards the teachers and the staff, which is huge, right? We can talk about the facilities also, because we've been spending a lot of money ensuring our kids have just the greatest possible facilities. But without great teachers, it doesn't matter how great the facilities are. And we are lucky enough to just have wonderful teachers in the district. Again, my experiences as a parent as well as a board member, and we've got to continue. We've got to cultivate those teachers. That's where the money needs to go to. Cultivate staff, which again, the district is doing, and we are just, a huge amount of our money goes towards that, as it should. But then let's switch over to the facilities, and the buildings are, I'm sure you guys have all seen the cool and wonderful construction that's going on at Maine West. It's really well needed. It was time to do this. And again, it's going to benefit all students. Again, regardless of your background, we want to give everybody equal opportunities and wonderful facilities. So those are my two focuses on regarding budgets. Again, spend wisely, but two things: facilities and teachers. And then everything will flow from there.
Thank you for your reply. We have just 2 questions left. For our 12th question, we'd like to know, given that the demographics at each school are very different both economically and culturally, how will you ensure that all students will receive an equal education regardless of zip code?
So as a board member, it's my job to make sure that money and resources are distributed equitably throughout the 3 schools. And in my last 4 years, I have not only demanded that, but the district has been a mandate with the district too. So that is always at the forefront of all discussions, that each school and each student needs to be given the same opportunities, again, regardless of background, regardless of zip code, regardless of where you live. And I can say that I have seen that, and I have seen that through the board. No one even blinks at that. Of course that's going to occur. When we discussed the referendum, the building referendum a few years ago, we discussed it at the board meetings, at least for 6 months, maybe even up to a year. And that was the biggest thing. Okay, so we specifically looked at Maine West, and we said, what are the needs? And we looked at Maine East, and what are the needs? And we looked at Maine South, and what are the needs? And each school had different needs, but the dollar amounts at the end of the day were very equitable. And again, that's the whole point. That's never been an issue with me.
We will turn now to our final question of the day. Please share with voters in response to our 13th question. Is there anything else you would like the voters to know?
Sure. Just in closing, I hopefully I've conveyed this throughout my discussion, but it is, what I'd like the citizens of Des Plaines to know is that I will fight very hard to ensure that each student is given every possible opportunity to succeed. And again, my theme is regardless of background, regardless of where you live, regardless of your zip code, regardless of whether your parents went to college or didn't, regardless of whether you are new to this country, regardless of what is your first language in your home, you should be allowed, it is your right to have equal access to all facilities, all opportunities, and that school should be a welcoming, nurturing environment. Again, it is also my goal that you are all provided with the best possible teachers, best possible facilities, but know that I spend your tax dollars very wisely, and I scrutinize every bid that comes in to make sure that the money is spent right, because I do understand and I do value that the board is the steward of your tax dollars. So, and again, just in closing, if you'd like to learn a little bit more about me, you can go to votecoyle.com, and you can also go to my Facebook page, which is Linda Coyle for Maine Township District 207 board. And I just want to say thank you so much for allowing me to talk with you all today, and please stay healthy, and please vote. That's another thing. I know Des Plaines, you've got a big mayoral election, so I think